This is the Ninja's Way podcast, where we talk all things ninja industry, ranging from top-tier athletes to the local ninja entrepreneur. Listen to their journey to success as they conquer obstacles in ninja and in life. This is the Ninja's Way. Welcome back, everybody, to the Ninja's Way podcast. I'm here with Jake, our co-host from Conquer Ninja. We have Ryan on with us today. He is a OG American Ninja Warrior competitor. He is the commentator for the Ninja Sport Network, and he is an entrepreneur in the ninja industry. So I'm super excited that you're on with us today. Ryan, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, appreciate y'all having me on. I've been listening in to some of y'all's podcast interviews, so it's cool to be here, and pleasure to chat with y'all today.
I was just going to add TV personality. So is that what you want to go with, Ryan?
Oh, that's what's mine. Is that listed on my Instagram? That's what I've been known for these last handful of seasons.
Oh, that's awesome. You're probably one of the most popular and well-known ninjas just throughout the years. 11, you were one of the original. You were on the original show, right?
Correct. Yeah, I started back in 2009 when season 1 started. Prior to that, they had only online entries to do called the American Ninja Challenge. And that all went through the G4 website. I was in on the ground floor for all that stuff, hoping to get votes online because that's how the process went. I was noticeable enough by the casting team to keep me in the rotation for getting the votes and getting my video online, but I never got enough votes from the public process in order to compete. So when A&W 1 came around and I got that application put in and I got my call, I was like, all right, here's my chance. And I got destroyed when I went out there. So I got humbled real quick. This is a very humbling sport for sure.
Quickly, what was like your background going into it? What drew you to it anyway?
I was in the military. I was in the Army National Guard. And at the time that I first saw Sasuke, the original Ninja Warrior, as it was being broadcasted on G4, I got hooked instantly. I was just flipping channels late one night. I want to say it was probably 2006 when I first started watching the show, 2006, 2007, somewhere around then when I first saw it, and was just enamored with the challenge and the fact that nobody had beaten it. I think when I first started watching, it was like a marathon of just people going and nobody was getting close. I was like, man, this is wild. Does this thing even exist still? Because when I first saw it, I was like, nah, this must be just some like hokey, kooky game show that doesn't exist anymore. And luckily, when I did my research, I was like, oh, it's still a thing. Let me see if I can just get in through the Japanese process. And I had to do my own research. And when they were like, no, you have to either be invited as like an Olympic athlete, like a really big name person, or live in the country, I was like, oh, there goes my shot. I'll still watch the show, but I'll just have fun on obstacles with the military. That was my main introduction to doing obstacles, was back in like my ROTC days. So felt like it was a good opportunity to test my skill set and to see how I would.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah, military obstacles quite different in the scale of things. Like we're more for about like building confidence and teamwork, but Ninja Warrior obstacles are more like individualized and a lot higher percent fail rate, I'd say, than the military obstacle courses.
Yeah.
And back in that time frame that you're talking about, like 2009, it's like Ninja didn't even exist. I couldn't even think of a gym that was around back then. So it's like you were instantly enamored with the idea of this. So then what happened, right? Because there wasn't the local ninja gym you could just go and hit up. How did you approach training and what was it like back then?
It was fun, man. Everything was so new. It was mostly just communicating through the forum boards. I was going to date myself a little bit there. If you're going online, it's like Reddit, essentially. That's like the only forum that's existing now for the most part. But yeah, the G4 forums, people would get on there and start trading tips back and forth, training tips. And some people started building their own obstacles and trying to figure things out. I never could build things stable. It was just maybe I could figure out a motion to mimic, but never could build my own things very efficiently. Would just rely on going to either gymnastic studios that would let me in for open gym, skate parks to practice like a vert ramp for the warp wall, playground somewhere. I was the first to like really screw into the baseballs to make the globe grasps. Got one hanging up in my hallway right there. But that was like, we had to come up with what we could at the time. And nobody knew what it was. They all thought it was associated to Wipeout, which was really popular at the time. So either Wipeout or the MXC show from Spike TV, those two were the main things that they were assuming I was training for. So it's like I had to explain the whole process, or they thought it was like a mixed martial arts thing, because that's when UFC was starting to get big as well. When you say Ninja Warrior, they think you're talking about beating somebody up and doing like a fighting tournament. There's a lot of
I mean, we still get that. People are like, "Oh, you own a ninja gym, so you must be really good at karate or something." I'm like, it's not really that type of gym.
The whole process of the ninja infiltrating a castle, I think that's the main where the name drew its inspiration from. Sasuke was like an old like folk tale in Japan. So there's whole, I'm probably butchering some of the historical references here, but that's essentially where the name came from, is about like people trying to break into a castle.
Years later, we're still on that educational piece of ninja.
God, man. Because some people don't have that. Yeah, they don't know the history. If people don't know the history, then you got to educate them on like where the show came from. And some folks don't even, they get on the show now, they have no idea about the history of it at all. So it's interesting to see the various fans of the show, where they come from, and the athletes now, where they're getting their starts. That's what fascinates me now, is talking to people and being like, hey, what was your first introduction to the show? Because that to me is fascinating to see how people grow up with it now, and where they first find out about it.
But where did you go from there? So your season 1, what type of success did you have? And then how did you run with it?
I'll tell you this, man, I was salty, man. I was a salty, marinated soldier back then. I was still in the Army. And the fact that I didn't do what I had set out to do, I was extremely upset at myself. And that didn't help one bit when it came to like training for the next season. I just stayed with it. I was upset at myself for my inability to follow through on the goal that I'd set for myself. And that hurt me mentally prepping for the next show, because it's like, all right, I'm going to try to make progress. But if I'm not putting the mental piece in with the physical piece, then the results won't change much. Sure, I got a little further down the line in the season 2 competition, made it to semifinals that next year, but came up short pretty embarrassingly, like popping off the trampoline, didn't know how to drop down to one, knees buckled, didn't even get on the salmon ladder. So it's like I made incremental progress, but I was still really upset with myself. And it wasn't until season 3 came along when I started getting coached by, I had a rhythmic gymnast that had a strong background in like competitive training and whatnot, and she helped me a lot with the mental side, and that's why season 3 was one of the best, still one of the best seasons that I've ever had.
You're talking a lot about this mental piece of ninja, and like you said, it's you need both, right? Like you need the physical skill, but you also need the mental determination. Now that you've done this for years and years, like how's the mentality now? And then is there any pre-competition rituals that you do that gets you in that right mentality?
Yeah, the mental side now has been great. The last few years that I took off was much needed to reevaluate where I was at in life and the direction I was going. Became too attached to the results and not committed to the process of becoming a better athlete, and just having too high goals and not training to meet those goals, essentially. Now I'm just enjoying the whole process. It's way more fun, way more enjoyable, to say the least. Not so concerned about, I got to beat the show. If I don't beat the show, then the rest of my life's going to fall apart. That was the kind of the mindset I was in. I was in some pretty tough spots back in the post-season 11 days.
Yeah.
So things are much better now, thankfully. Thanks for asking. Some pre-run rituals, though. Got to go with the back slap. The old traditional back slap. That's something me and my buddy Mike Bernardo have made our own over here. That's a homage to the Japanese competitors. All the all-star athletes would do that, the way ceremonial start to get you fired up before you run. So I'm excited for another back slap this season.
I like that.
I'll have to try that one.
Well, bam! Like I said, that usually they'll put you on a towel or something to soften the blow. I gotta tell my buddy,
it gets you fired up. Yeah,
I gotta tell him how much percentage-wise, how much I'm maybe like 50%, so you don't cause it to cramp up on the start line all of a sudden.
Talk about that a little bit more. That is, as popular and elite style athletes, not just in ninja, they get into their sport and they have these goals to be at the very top. And then when you get close to that, the pressure that you put on yourself and or the expectations you have for yourself, it almost, I haven't, besides business, I don't think I've done anything to that high level of where my expectations are where I start to be negative. Speak to that a little bit more in regards to putting too much pressure on yourself.
This is pretty deep. It's like a deep cut here for stuff that I've been working through here
Yeah.
fairly recently.
And the reason why I ask, Ryan, is because I don't think for people who have goals and they put themselves in a position to be at the highest level.
Yeah.
It's almost, if they don't succeed at it, it is an ultimate failure. And that you really can't look at it that way. You got to look, like you're saying, you take a step back, you look at the process and enjoy the process to do it, and then let it play out from there.
Yeah. Agreed, man. That's the mindset I'm moving forward with now. It's allowed me to be more relaxed through this whole process. Even with competing last year, it was still a very new mindset. Now I was moving forward into competing for seasons 15 and 16 back to back. But now that I've had time with it, I feel more comfortable with this mindset moving forward. And it's a pattern that I've recognized that I've had to repeat. It's like, what do they say? You get taught the same lessons over and over again until you learn something. I did that with like Little League baseball. Like anytime I went up, if I didn't hit a home run, every time I was at bat, I felt like I was the worst player ever. All right. And then moving into wrestling in my high school years, if I didn't make it into state championships, that was a bad season for me. And then, all right, moving into college, if I don't get the degree that I'm shooting for, I guess I just wasted all my time in college. Like it was a very tough mindset to reprogram. So it's interesting last few years of going through that process through things like the landmark forums, some of the personal development classes I've been taking, to recognize those patterns. Because if people don't look for it to help you find those blind spots, you're not going to see them yourself. So sometimes you need some extra assistance with like therapy or just one of your friends helping you out in that matter.
Sure. And that's why I love Ninja so much for the youth, is because it's like you said, it's so hard to get into your adult life and then recognize these patterns that you need to reprogram, right? And so it's like these Ninja programs have this opportunity to give kids a good set of programming, right? So that they can learn how to face failure and they can learn how to overcome these things at a younger age. I know for me, like I didn't play a lot of sports growing up. And so it was like, I didn't have a lot of opportunity to really flex that muscle, as it were, or get better at that skill set. But it's a lot harder to do as an adult. It's a lot harder to rewire your brain once you hit a certain age. But you really start to recognize it a lot more in just the things that life throws at you.
Yeah. And it's one thing to fail in a sport, but then when you start to fail at things in life, that's tough. Be it like a relationship or just career change, finding those ways to bounce back and not giving up before even trying. I think that was another aspect of my personality that I had to overcome, where negatively already in my mind, I'm not going to be able to achieve something. Then I wouldn't even consider attempting it. Or I would already find a way out, like an excuse. Like I've got to find something that's going to make me look better in the eyes of whoever I think should be viewing me a certain way. And that's a whole nother viewpoint you need to get rid of as well. Who cares what anybody else thinks? As long as I'm happy and doing things to the best of my abilities, that's really all that matters to me right now.
That's spot on. It's don't worry about, especially when it comes to Ninja and most sports and even most things in life. It's like people were not really taught to fail, to not succeed. It just happens. And such is life. Like, to be a winner is more unique than anything, really. And no matter what it is, but you got to take the small goals. And what you said earlier in regards to like the process, that's where athletes and ninjas in this instance need to take a step back and enjoy that process of the training and hitting those small goals. So when you do, you at least get something out of the process, because Ninja, as you know now, and sounds like you've accepted it, very few ever get to the very end of it in regards to winning. Clearly they've changed it over the years now, and that little bit is, I feel like, what we try to instill in our ninjas is, you're going to fail at things. Like, that's just a given. It's the small wins that you got to start stacking up.
So Ryan,
It's
you are
tough.
also a commentator for the Ninja Sport Network. And for those who don't know, that is a competition series, which mainly does a lot of live streams on YouTube. So check them out if you have not so far. So how does your experience as an original American Ninja Warrior and a ninja athlete, how does that affect your commentating?
I think it's been pretty fun to see how I've been able to transition into this role and add my own personal, like, unique flair to the commentary side of things. Just the years of experience that I've had on the show and training and competing, I generally have a good sense of what that athlete might be feeling in the moment. I think that helps a lot. Help translate what's happening on the screen to the viewers at home. My main thing is to ensure that whatever the athlete is doing, I'm trying to accentuate what they are achieving or coming up short on, and trying to convey that emotion to the viewers at home, and to make sure everything is as exciting as possible for everybody. They're authentic as well. I don't want to fake any kind of emotional reaction whenever I'm commentating somebody's run, because that comes across pretty evident. Like whenever you hear somebody trying to commentate in any sport that just doesn't want to be there, or practice. It just takes a lot of practice, and I love what I do. I love being there for every last run, and it's been exciting to see the growth of the Ninja Sport Network. And I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. So as long as Ninja Sport Network's around, I'll be commentating for them. That's my goal.
Part of a success tip for people is, one, focus on your strengths. And hopefully you know this, and if I'm sure lots of people have told you, your voice is strong. And it is built for that type of commentary, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. No, it's real fun. I was at the barn competition this last weekend, and that was over more of the loudspeaker to do the commentary. And that was fun because I'm like in the action. Everybody can see how I'm reacting and things like that. Versus commentary, when I'm in the booth, nobody can really see how I'm reacting to the stuff on screen, but I can still be just as animated, and hopefully that translates as well for everybody to hear how excited I am during those processes.
Led to that transition for you from athlete to commentator? Was it just this relationship with Ninja Sport Network? How did that come about?
It was my last day in Colorado. I was moving back to the East Coast. This is after I left my coaching job out there to try to figure out what my next path was going to be. And they were just in town to do the very first Bucket of Chalk fundraiser. And that was being live streamed by old DeGangi with the very first Ninja Sport Network flagship event. And he was just looking to get somebody back in the booth. Hey, who wants to come back for a bit, try it out? And I went back there and fell in love with it, man. I didn't leave. I stayed longer than he was probably expecting. It seemed like a natural fit, calling the action and then just getting into everybody's run. So it was a pretty cool way to go about it. And so big thank you to DeGangi for giving me that opportunity. And the rest has been history since then.
Do you have other avenues that you're using your voice too? Or are you looking into other things like that? Just curious.
Yeah, that's an area that I'm investigating currently. It's in the past, I'd be too intimidated by trying something new, such as like voice acting. That's been something that a lot of people have encouraged me to look into, be it like an audio book series, voiceover, and animated something, or video games. So voice acting is a realm that I'm going to start investigating more into. Because why not? Why not? Got the voice.
I mean,
so
focus on your strengths, man. That's
well, and you can fit some pretty cool animated characters. I could imagine it.
I do get pretty goofy from time to time, but I know how to bring that energy. That's for sure.
In that same vein, from one of the OGs in the American Ninja Warrior scene to now converting to the business of ninja, what else are you working on? What else do you have going there?
Oh my, let's see. I definitely got to plug the flop ball. These bad boys have been pretty fun to toss around and see the community get behind it. It's just a fun little hand hacky sack toss around and get those hand-eye nation reflexes ready for the course. So that's been going really well. Excited season 17. They're going to want to do a story on the road trip that I just came back from and selling these bad boys across the country. And so we'll see how much that further propels that little section of my life that I've been enjoying.
Is that like your own invention, or like how flop came about?
Yeah, this is from it's a husband-wife owned business. The husband, Paul, he's been a juggler his whole life and performer his whole life. And he said during some of the like classes he would teach, when you're teaching somebody new how to juggle, like a ball would tend to roll away a lot easier. And he wanted to create something flat and easy to introduce people into like the aspect of like contact juggling, and just start something simple that's a little different than your traditional juggling. Like doing something on the back of your hand is pretty foreign to a lot of people. But with it only being one thing, that was something that a lot of people could gravitate to and just start simple and make progress fairly quickly. So this little thing, when I found it, it was mostly used by me to help get me out of that bad doom scrolling mindset that I was in, to focus on the present moment. So instead of me scrolling on my phone, then I could just toss this bad boy around, just focus in on what I got my hands on at the time, and to help me just get the flow state going from there.
I really like that.
Yeah, it's been very helpful for me mentally. And yeah, now I'm just excited to see more kids with their own styles that they're creating, because there's no right way to do it. There's a couple of basic moves you can go by, and then just grow your own style from there.
I got a little testimony on that too. So like I seen your posts and stuff on the past. I'm like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And then I think it was at WNL finals when I actually got my hands on one and I actually tried it. I'm like, oh yeah, he makes it look super easy. Like the moves you were doing, I'm like, okay, it's actually a little harder to learn than I thought, because you make it look easy. So yeah, by the like day 3 of the WNL, we were doing it in the hotel room. We were like, so it does keep you entertained and active with it, because you want to keep getting better at it.
Yeah,
we enjoyed it.
I'm glad you told me that story. And like anytime I hear about how kids the parents would tell me like, oh, they wouldn't put it down in the hotel, or that to me is worth more than the cost of doing business, because it just shows that they're able to be more present to the moment, to people around them. They're playing catch with their friends. They're not just like staying glued to the phone. Might be playing catch with their parents, seeing their parents get involved. So it's a low entry point, real inexpensive way to have a good time and try a new skill out.
We had a booth there, but we got ninjas there competing, but we're also the franchise business of Ninja. Kids would come up like, hey, what do you guys do? We're like, oh, we have ninja gyms. They're like, do you have the flop bag things? All that's down over there. They weren't really interested in what we had to offer, but
oh man, I'll get you some custom ones.
The Brandon Cocker ones for sure. We'll talk about that.
So back slaps and flop balls. That's the secret sauce, everybody.
That's it for me. It's gonna be a fun year this season. Season 17 is gonna be a fun one.
It's funny because when we had opened our first gym in New Mexico, I had hired my brother as one of our coaches. And his whole thing was the hacky sack. And so it became this whole theme of like the class, and all the kids had this expectation about this hacky sack. It was just something that he would use as like a connection piece with kids in class. So they would be doing a balance beam and he would throw them the hacky sack and they'd have to catch it. And if they dropped it, then they had to do push-ups. And if they tossed it back to him and he dropped it, then the coach had to do push-ups, right? And so simple like a hacky sack can just create so much connection. And when I saw you, I was like, man, I wish we had those, because I think that those are like, they add this extra little layer. I like the fact that it's flat as well. I think that it totally plays into Ninja, and I think it could be one of those tools for Ninja coaches that they can really just keep in their pocket and use as a connection piece with their kids and during their classes, which I think would be a cool thing.
Yeah, I've heard stories from some coaches that will incorporate them into training, where if they're not paying attention and they get their name called, they toss them a flop ball, they miss it, then they got some conditioning to do. But some people are already using the ideas you're coming up with.
There you go. I love it.
From a coaching or from a training standpoint, now that you're more of a mature ninja, you're not the 20-year-old ninja anymore.
Yeah.
What would be some adult training tips for just adult ninjas training?
Consistency. I think that's still the most important one. You're staying consistent with your workouts and not pushing yourself too hard when you're introducing a new skill. So I'd say work the progressions and staying focused with your progressions and mobility and stretching to prevent injuries. So I'm not saying you can't push yourself hard, but I'm just saying progress at a understandable rate. Long gone are the days of me just showing up to a gym and a kid says, "Hey, show us your salmon ladder skills." I need like
Yeah, it's gonna
45
take
minutes to
me.
warm these shoulders up.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, just warm up, proper cool down, and just take care of your body. And you can still do some cool things in the sport. You just got to be more mindful about how you're taking care of yourself. And same thing goes to the young kids out there. Y'all got to stay flexible and maintain your mobility, and not to get on my soapbox. But yeah, that's why I needed 2 surgeries on my shoulders. I was all just trying to lift big weights in the Army, and then didn't take care of the mobility when it came to all the hard impacts we were taking, doing big throws and stuff. So all that kind of compounded into some issues later on. So the younger they can start building those solid foundations of consistently warming up, cooling down, stretching, doing everything properly, that'll help with the longevity of the sport.
You've been doing lots of traveling, going to lots of ninja gyms. I'm sure you've been to lots of competitions, doing commentating. So do you have any like memories or gyms that really stick out in your mind through your travels as a ninja?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Many gyms. I want to say the very first one where I got introduced to like the ninja stuff was West Coast side. We probably the first time I ever got on actual obstacles was David Campbell and Brian Crutch's backyards. Got to try their salmon ladders, their cliff hangers, unstable bridge in Crutch's garage. The backyard course that David Campbell put together back in the day. That's where all the ninjas would try to travel to prior to filming, and would try to train some there prior to going to the qualifying rounds. So those are really cool early on experiences. But man, here lately, I don't even know which gym really stands out other than the one I'm here now at. Mostly it was Motive. That's Brett's gym. Brett and Grace and Booty and Bob, the whole Greenville crew. Still probably one of my favorite gyms.
How about from the show experience? Because you were on Team Ninja Warrior, right?
Yeah,
A couple
did 2
different
seasons.
versions of American Ninja Warrior. One of your favorite memories from just your experience of the show and being on it?
Oh wow, man, that's ask me to pull from the memory banks here. If I could narrow it down, still
Was that?
Japan.
Yeah.
Season 3, Japan is still like one of the high marks, and it takes the top spot. Another time would be, I'd say, clearing city finals in season 11 in my home state in Georgia with my good friends there. That was a really cool experience. And then getting in the tower with Matt and Akbar this past season. That was, I'd say, those are my top three moments off the top of the dome. Really cool experiences this year alone.
So do you have any thoughts on the new age of American Ninja Warrior shifting to side-by-side racing instead of their traditional format of stage 1, stage 2, stage 3? Is that something you're excited about? Is that something you're going to miss about American Ninja Warrior? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was interesting to see that happen. I didn't expect it to take the place of the 4-staged format ever. If anything, I was expecting like another offshoot like they did with A&W Junior and Ninja vs. Ninja. So yeah, not expecting it to go the way it did for season 17 and potentially future iterations of the show. We don't really know. But yeah, I'll miss having the 4-stage format. I'll just say that as like a traditionalist, that I still feel that's like the heart of what the show is based about. Those 4 stages, pretty unique when it comes to the sporting event of everybody versus one thing. But now you got the side-by-side racing. It's a little more exciting for the viewers, exciting for the people that are there watching if they like to see who's going to be first versus who can put it all together and get through this without falling. So it's just exciting in a different way. I still prefer the 4-stage format. But yeah, I'm just glad to be a part of it and still get to play on some obstacles.
All right, you got the call. You're going this year?
Yep, season 17, still on the books. So I got the call. I'll be heading out. I'll be competing on the 29th, night of the 29th. So that's when I compete. And who knows when this will all air. We haven't filmed one in the fall in a while. So we'll see. We'll see when they decide to put it all together.
We'll end with this. What does ninja mean to you?
What does ninja mean to me? Ninja being the sport and the community of everything that we've done over the last, 15 odd years or so, 15, 16 and counting. I'd say grit, determination, hard work. That's what it all boils down to. Teamwork. We're all facing obstacles in different ways, not just physically on the course, but also in our lives. Like everybody's got different things they have to face. And a lot of people might not be privy to the experiences they're going through prior to even them having to set foot on the course. So I feel ninja is such a unique sport that we all get to just strive for the same goal in just different ways, but we're all so supportive of each other. I never want to see that spirit of the show. Sasuke spirit is essentially the phrase that we've been using. Never want to see that go away. So what it means to me.
Ryan, thank you so much for this conversation, being open, being vulnerable, talking to us about all your ninja things. How can people get in contact with you?
Y'all can hit me up on Instagram, Ryan_Strat. You can hit my email up, Ryan.Stratis@gmail.com, or hit me up over on the anytime we're doing a live stream for Ninja Sport Network. I'll be commentating over there. So jump on the live stream chat and hit me up. And yeah, it's always a lot of fun in the chat during the live streams.
Ryan, you're truly a legend and still contributing to the sport of ninja and helping it grow. So keep it up, and thanks for talking with us.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, y'all. Y'all have a good one.